Impetuous, hot-blooded, and bored of long sieges, Edward makes a pact with Mowbray. Be relieved by midsummer 1314, or surrender. King Edward II will not allow the surrender of this key fortress. Mustering the largest English army ever to cross the border, Bruce is forced to do what he has always feared: meet the English on the open field. And so, on June the 23rd, 1314, waiting for the English above the Bannockburn, on the road to Stirling Castle, stands Scotland. Highlander and Lowlander, Norman and Celt, clan by clan, all the nobility and common folk alike. One nation under one king.
Of the Roman road! The English are coming! The English are coming! On this spot, a battle will take place which will alter the course of Scottish history. King Robert the Bruce leads his army in a scouting for the approaching army under the invasion force of Edward II. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for King Robert the Bruce! Hero of Scotland, winner of Loudon Hill, taker of castles. That is pathetic. This is a king we're talking about. Once again. That's more like it. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on the current ground of what was the New Park before the Battle of Bannockburn, an ancient hunting ground developed by Alexander III. Tradition says that Robert the Bruce came here a few nights before the Battle of Bannockburn and planted his standard where the current flagpole now is, where the saltire flies high. He planted his royal standard and made his headquarters here and waited for the huge invasion force under Edward II, King of England. Bruce is champion of Scotland, but he has one more battle yet to fight. A battle which will bring him into legend. A 2-day battle with horrific consequences. He's prepared the ground well. He was camped up in the Torwood near Falkirk and moved down to this area. On either side of the Roman road, he has dug small pits to the depth of a man's knee, blocking the entry to the New Park. While Bruce is addressing his men, he prepares and waits for the might of Edward II. The English vanguard arrive in late afternoon. While Robert the Bruce is lightly armed, addressing his men, making sure they're all armed, preparing for battle, Sir Henry de Bohun, the Earl of Hereford's nephew, arrives as a part of the vanguard. De Boon sees the King of Scots, armed lightly with an axe. This is De Boon's chance for glory. If De Boon can kill De Bruce in one foul swoop, the war will come to an end. De Boon is armed with a heavy lance and his heavy destrier and armour. Bruce is lightly equipped and not ready. All he has to defend himself is an axe. This is a moment of single combat, a moment of glory. The English Earl lowers his lance and, preparing to kill the Scots king, strikes at him. And De Boon is killed with one swift stroke from Bruce's axe. I think there's a slight twitching there, but he's got a headache he'll never recover from. And De Boon's skull was split from the top of the crown right through to his chest. And all Bruce said was, "Alas, I've broken my good axe." So it looks like it's first goal to the Scots as they carried De Boon's body away. This is what gives Robert the Bruce his legend. An act in chivalric terms of a single blow, deftly scalped to the skull. In the meantime, his army are cheering and forcing him on. He's really, really happy. But this sends a shockwave to the English army, the vanguard. It lets them know that this is a king that can handle himself, and handle himself well. Big cheer for Robert the Bruce, please. One of the main ways that the Scots win the Battle of Bannockburn is by use of a schiltron, or a battle of men. And this was really something that was essential. William Wallace had used these men before at the Battle of Falkirk, but as Wallace did, he tied his men in, kind of to a rope fence like this with archers. So he blocked them in. What Bruce learned to do was make these men mobile. And this is really how it worked. He spent several weeks in the Tor Wood near Falkirk, training these men again and again. Big cheer for the Bruce, please. Come on, my granny can shout louder than that. Big cheer for the Bruce, please. Each man is armed with a 12-foot spear, heavy-tipped iron spear, not a spear you would chuck. Others would be armed lightly with an axe or a knife, and their job amongst the schiltron was to dart in amongst the cavalry when they were unhorsed and finish the job. You can witness here just how mobile and effective this would be. The lines are about 3 men deep, and they're virtually impenetrable to a charge of heavy horse. Bruce is just checking on his men here. They're broken down into 3 divisions, which may have effectively happened on the second day. So the Scots have got the first goal. They're confident now, and they're awaiting the English vanguard. The English vanguard itself would be the first to arrive, but this is a huge army, summoning probably about 21,640 individuals that came to the Battle of Bannockburn. This is Edward II's only chance throughout his whole reign to have fought Bruce. Bruce is not a commander who fights pitched battles. He prefers hit-and-run tactics. In fact, on the route up, the English army would have found that all they would have found was a burnt-out homesteads and farms, as Bruce basically slashed and burned the land before him. The might of the English army, the vanguard, is led by 2 earls. So there's mistake number 1. The incompetent Edward II has appointed the Earl of Hereford, usually the constable, and the commander of the vanguard, but he's also appointed the young Earl of Gloucester, a 23-year-old hothead full of bling and prestige, who brings 500 cavalry with him. Please give it up for the Earl of Hereford and Gloucester. Commanders. Oh, come on, come on. That's not very nice. Both commanders are at odds with each other. They've already got a bit of rivalry between each other in Wales, where they command, and Hereford and Gloucester are at odds with each other as in who should command the actual battle itself. Hereford is a veteran commander, years of experience fighting against the Scots, whereas young Gloucester is fairly new to this, but still a hired killer.
Go on, go on, go on.
What are you doing here, old man?
Go on. What do you think I'm doing here?
I'm the leader of this army.
You're just a boy! You're not the Constable of England, you've got no idea!
I've had more victories in this campaign than you have in your entire life.
Yeah, and I've had more dinners than you have! Go on, finish that one off now, go on.
You got me on that last time.
Put you off your stroke now, haven't I? I've seen more blood than you'll ever see in a lifetime! At least I know what war is about!
You take so long to command your men half than die of old age.
Well, at least they're still alive, unlike yours.
I get results.
You're too hot-headed, you rush in like a fool!
This is my line.
All right, settle down, ladies.
About time somebody changes your nappy.
Put your handbags down. Thank you.
Go on.
Right.
What are you looking at?
They put aside their differences, and a well-armed and well-prepared English vanguard charge at the first Chiltern. But Bruce's men are ready. On either side of the Chiltern would be pits dug to the depth of a man's knee to break up the charge of heavy horse. And they're ready. The first cavalry charge cannot get through at all, and Gloucester was actually unhorsed. Go on, give it some. In your own time. In frustration, the knights throw their maces and their axes and so forth at the Scots. Or they tried to, because his aim's that bad. The vanguard itself, despite their attempts, are broken. The actual pits take their toll. Horses go down, men go down against the movement of the spikes and the movement of the pikes themselves. Gloucester is unhorsed, and Hereford, they began to retreat back. But it looks like on this occasion, the infantry of England has decided to have a go. You can see here this tight formation of men standing shoulder to shoulder with impenetrable spears. Look at the length that they have. Even if you have a sword, they stand little chance. But it looks like the English troops are ready for it. And they're marching forward. This body of men. This fantastic way of, oh dear, never stand downwind at a Chiltern. Oh, that's rotten. I think he's washed for weeks. Oh. So you can see here just how effective a Chiltern is. 3 deep with a 12-foot spear. Come on, infantry, you can do it. Okay, for the 3/4 of you can't see this, a big man with a pointy stick is shoving it at another man with a tin helmet on, who stinks of WD-40 and only does this on weekends. And it looks like the English infantry are trying to hold the form, but they can't, not against the weight of the Scots as they push forward, pushing them back. And they're off. And they're broken, they're broken. Bye, bye, bye. They'll live to fight another day. Who's broke a nail? Okay, it looks like the Scots on this occasion are victorious. So, Scots! 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 The crowd's that way. Scots, the crowd's this way. You know, left foot, right foot, your body will follow. Come on, turn around. Ooh. But you can see here just how effective they are. These huge spears, huge pikes. They would plunge into horse flesh, human beings, and all sorts. And they would move in quite quick succession. And they're going to give you a little demonstration on either side just how effective these weapons are. So you can see here, just be careful. Oop. So you can see just how effective they are. And this is really a case of the battle where the man with the biggest stick will win. And you can see them moving forward, moving forward. It's okay, crowd against the trees, don't be frightened, just keep away from the 12 foot. As long as you're not in a 12-foot radius, you'll be fine. And whatever you do, don't go near their mouths on a foot, in case they bite you. So it does look like, so far, in the afternoon of the 23rd of June, there's been 2 victories to the Scots. And this again is a formation that the Scots will go on and adopt later on in other battles. It's used briefly at the Battle of Bioland. I might have guessed. This Shilton group in particular have always loved a camera. They're camera magnets. If they're not on Facebook, they're not happy. Oh, you can tweet that one. This is Thomas Randolph Shilton, and he is Robert the Bruce's nephew. Originally, he was not a supporter of Bruce. Come down here and say that. So as I said, these men have been training for weeks on end. Constantly, Bruce would at them. Right guys, do it again. No, you've not got it right. Do it again. Do it again. So effectively, they're a highly effective fighting force. The only real weapon against these individuals, the only real threat would be archers or crossbowmen. But during the Battle of Bannockburn, according to Barber, Edward at one of the last moments deploys some archers, and they're seen off by Keith's cavalry. Had he used them at the beginning of the battle, and had he used the possible Genoese crossbowmen he requested, the battle may have ended in an entirely different result altogether. But thankfully for us, it didn't, and things have changed slightly. They're now beginning to form up. But of course, there's another incident on the first day of battle. It's not all over yet. In another attempt to take the castle, and another attempt to outflank the Scots, the English move again and move forward to St Ninians under Sir Robert Clifford and Henry Beaumont. Sir Robert Clifford was a veteran of the Scottish Wars of Independence who fought against Wallace and later against Bruce. He was a rival of Douglas, the good Sir James, or the Black Douglas. Having taken his lands, Douglas quickly punished his troops for that by creating the Douglas larder, which I will not go into because it's rather disgusting. So, Sir Robert Clifford and Henry Beaumont ride round to try and outflank the Scots, and they're met almost at the last minute when Bruce is in this area and he notices them riding round. So he orders his nephew, Sir Thomas Randolph, to engage in them. But before he says that, he accuses Randolph of basically making a mistake and not noticing it, and says a rose has fallen off your chaplet. In other words, get your finger out and get down there and sort them out. And as Clifford and Beaumont ride out, they're blocked by Thomas Randolph's Chiltern. The two forces will clash in a savage struggle. Oh no, hang on, the horse is on the Facebook moment. Hang on. It's just tweeting, I was at Bannockburn live and I was brilliant. It's big, bad and grey. In an attempt, the English cavalry charge at Thomas Randolph's Chiltern. But the Scots are ready for them. And as the English charge in, William Deancourt is killed and Sir Thomas Grey is captured. I don't think that horse would... Oh! As you can see, again, that was a gutsy charge, but the Scots repel the English once more, taking one prisoner. Sir Thomas Grey goes on to write an account of the Battle of Bannockburn, which is used by later chronicles. But again, the English, in their frustration, throw their maces, their swords and their axes at them, but they stand firm. Chaps, I would run away if I were you. Left foot, that's it, left foot, right foot, your body will follow. So again, it's a hat-trick to the Scots on this battle. So morale is high. The Scots have won a victory, and technically they've done what they set out to do, which was to prevent an English army relieving Stirling Castle by Midsummer's Eve, 1314. Bruce has an option now. He doesn't need to fight. His army can move away, blend into the hills, and he can return to the guerrilla warfare that he is so expertly able to do. As for the English, well, they've been given a bloody nose on 3 occasions. De Boon's gone, or what's left of him is gone. Gloucester and Hereford have been unhorsed. Well, Gloucester's been unhorsed, Hereford has been moved back, and Clifford and Beaumont have lost a lot of the weaponry, thrown them at the Scots in frustration. The rest of the English army begins to arrive, but by that time it's early evening and there's no point in fighting. So the English, unable to move across the Roman road, make their way down and cross the Bannockburn. In order that they cross the Bannockburn, they take the doors and the roofs of local houses, which would not have been popular with the people, I'd imagine. Where you going with that door, you? Taking it to build a bridge. So you can just imagine, if you were living in Bannockburn and somebody took away your door, you would not be a happy person. But they needed that in order to ford the Bannockburn. And they camped out on the Carse of Stirling, which is a flat piece of ground between the Pell Stream and the Bannockburn. And there's a simple reason they would do this, and that's basically in order that they're basically covered, their flanks are covered by water, and they can water their horses, because a medieval army has a lot of horses with it. Maybe up to 2,500. And here Bruce is riding again. The hero Bruce has come in to talk to his generals. All right, settle down. He's not that good. As for the English, they're a bit in disarray. Their leaders are still at each other's throats. Hereford and Gloucester are still arguing with each other. Edward II hasn't even come round the camp to say, well done, chaps, we'll get them tomorrow. But a lot of the English don't expect the Bruce to be up here when he actually turns up, and they move up on the 24th. Bruce, as I said, he's not a campaigner and doesn't fight pitched battles. Maybe he got lucky on the 23rd. So the English start to make camp, and it must have been a pretty uncomfortable night. The Carse is full of bog in certain areas, dry in others. It's full of horrible wee things called midges, which I'm sure everyone has experienced. And a lot of them are in a panic and they have to basically sleep in their armour. Morale is low. However, for the Bruce, it's an entirely different matter. Morale is high, but he still has the option not to fight. A defector called Sir Alexander Seton, who's a Scot fighting on the English side, has had enough of the way the English behave, and he defects up to Bruce.
On your knees, both knees, kneel.
My Lord Bruce, if you'll allow me to speak, I bring news from the English camp.
Speak, man.
The English leadership is in disarray. The knights squabble among themselves, and even King Edward cannot set himself apart from these petty squabbles, and the English are leaderless. It is my opinion that if you press your attack on your advantage, the English will break, and surely victory will be yours. If you'll allow me to join you, it'll be an honour to fight with you.
And can we trust you this time?
Aye, Lord, you can trust me. I'll die for you.
Join us.
Thank you, my lord.
War Council, now.
So Bruce calls a war council and asks his men if they want to fight, and they say yes. Effectively, what Alexander Seton has said is, the English are in disarray. Morale is low. They're hemmed in against the banks of the Bannockburn. If you sweep down tomorrow morning at first light, the battle is yours. So Bruce has decided that Scotland will fight another day. Give it up for Robert the Bruce on day one. Thank you. And on the morning of the 23rd of June, 1314, Robert the Bruce makes his way from this high ground and down towards the Carse. His men are not horsed, they're on foot, and they form up in 3 schiltrons and press through the woods and emerge slowly onto the Carse. Bruce has decided to attack at first light, and the Scots will advance and take the English by surprise. But before that, they will kneel in prayer. Remember that the English don't expect the Scots to fight. So some of them will be dozing in their camps or in their armour. It's only when they emerge from the woods. According to one chronicle, there's a bit of archer fire between the Scots and the English. The Scots come off the worst, and they go through the woods, and then the pikemen or the schiltron come out of the woods and kneel in prayer. And it's at this point they are spotted by the English army. Prayer is absolutely essential in this part because it allows Bruce to make sure all his men are here and their men are blessed. It also makes sure that Bruce knows everyone's turned up on the second day. So it gives him time. And it is actually said by Edward II that he witnesses the Scots kneeling in prayer and says, "Oh, they ask for mercy." And a Scottish knight who's fighting on the English side, there were a few of them, remarks to Edward II, "Aye, they ask for mercy, but no for you." And here Robert the Bruce addresses his troops.
The English are weak. It is now or never. Join me. Together, we'll defeat them.
that wasn't a very big cheer, was it? Come on.
Come on!
Let's hear it. Come on! Hey. That's more like it. Didn't hear much for the crowd though. Just because it's raining, are you happy? Well, tell your face. Tell your faces, it's only rain. That's why Scottish people have got webbed feet. Right, sorry, back to the action. Of course, what makes this battle slightly different is that Bruce gives orders that no prisoners are to be taken. They can't afford to take prisoners. Remember, they're still outnumbered almost 3-1. So it is absolutely vital that they don't take prisoners to the end of the battle. And this is completely different in medieval warfare, because normally, if you capture a knight, it's like winning the national lottery. Basically, you would ransom the knight for as much money as you could possibly do. And under the terms of chivalry, that's what happens. But in this battle, Bruce has said specifically, this isn't a deal and not an option for them at all. Now what Bruce must do and what the Scots must do is close the gap between themselves and the English cavalry. So when they emerge out of the woods, they take a short prayer and then they start to move forward really quickly, because the English are still half asleep and camped out. Some of the army will manage to get itself on horseback in preparation for the attack. And here come Edward II of England. Give it up for Edward II of England! Where is your chivalric code? Give it up for Edward II of England. Come on. Dear. Oh well. I can't say he was popular back in 1314, and it doesn't look like he's still popular in 2014. But of course, this is a Saints' Day, and basically the English are tired, and an argument basically happens between young Gloucester and Edward II.
Gloucester, can you tell me why the Scottish army has managed to get that close to my camp? You were meant to be on watch.
I requested the men and the resources so I could prevent something like this. You didn't give me the men. Yet all my men are fighting for you. They're already giving their lives for you.
Giving their lives? They're meant to be professional soldiers. They're peasants. Peasants.
Well, what do you expect when they march 100 miles? They need rest, they need to sleep, and they need to eat.
That's coward speak. You're a coward and a fool.
Oh, shoot, I'm not a coward.
Go on then.
Young Gloucester basically has been reprimanded and accused of cowardice and treachery by Edward II. This in front of all his peers and fellow nobles and fellow earls. Remember, this is a 23-year-old football star telling them it's the equivalent of somebody going up to Beacon and saying, "You're useless." Well, hang on. Maybe you are. Sorry, David, I know you're not here. So young Gloucester makes his way and rides straight at the Scots in almost a suicidal charge. Or perhaps he was trying to stop the Scots advancing. Either way, it's an ill-fated result for him. And you can see here, even a war horse is not really keen on riding up against men with big pointy sticks. The young Gloucester is unhorsed and is killed. Another victim. But this death of Gloucester, this killing of this nobleman, really sends a shockwave to the English army, who can't believe that this has happened. Normally, under the rules of chivalry, he would have been captured. The Scots then press on against the cavalry. The English cavalry, under the vanguard, attack and are pushed back. Horses go down. There'll be screaming of men, neighing of horses. They press forward again and again. The cavalry itself is pushed back onto its own troops. You can imagine horses running through lines of men. Absolutely horrific. And of course, at the same time, the English infantry are trying to push forward and a crush develops, and some men are crushed to death. Once the cavalry are gone, it's down to the final hand-to-hand combat as more and more English are pushed towards the dreaded Bannockburn. What we're about to witness here are probably the last few moments of the battle, as a desperate amount of English infantry tried to fight their way against the Scots. The Scots are confident. Are you confident, Scots?